Welcome back everyone to our last video in this series on making a platform game. This is Mike Page with scriptingisfun.com. Come a long way through this game development project here together. Today we're going to wrap up a few loose ends and we're going to talk about how to load new levels in to your game. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take care of what happens when our player falls off the platforms. Right now when he falls off a platform, he'll just fall forever down in the game world. So what we really want to do is have him, once he's fallen far enough, we want him to be respawned back to his last checkpoint and to lose a life when that happens. So there's a couple of ways that you can go about doing that. One of the easiest ways is just to put a trigger collider under your level. And when he hits that trigger collider, if he falls down off of there, then we can trigger that respawn. So let's go ahead and use that method today. So what we're going to do in our level here is we're going to create an empty game object. So we'll just go up here to Hierarchy, Create Empty. Let's call this our Death Plane. And then we will make sure that we position this at 0 on the Z, as you should all your objects in a 2D game. And then let's just move this down here kind of towards the bottom of our level here. And then we're going to add a collider to it. So let's just do a 2D box collider. And then we can just take the size here and make it big enough to cover the whole level. So looks like maybe a 25 or so is going to work for this level that I have here because it's pretty short. But if your level is longer, go ahead and just size that up so that it covers the whole bottom level. I'm going to put it down here below the bottom of where the camera can go, so that we'll make sure that he disappears off the bottom before we remove him. And this will be a trigger collider. So we'll go ahead and mark that as a trigger. Then in our player script, we're going to have to have an addition to our onTriggerEnterTwoD function. So let's find that. Here it is, onTriggerEnterTwoD. Remember, this is the function that runs automatically whenever our player hits a trigger collider. And we're going to need to make a tag for this. So we're going to go ahead and just add this right down in here. And we'll say if other dot compare tag. And this time we'll have to make this tag in a second. Let's just call this our death plane. So if we hit the death plane, then we need to die and respawn. So let's take a look to see how we're handling that. Right now we're checking for death only on collisions with the enemy. And if we die, we're calling respawn and resetting everything here. Let's look at our respawn function just to kind of review what we're doing. So when we respawn, we go to max health, we reset everything, we move our guy. So basically what we want to do is we want to call respawn when we fall off the bottom. We also though want to take away a life. So right now the only place we're doing that is right here. So we'll either have to make another function to handle taking away lives, or we'll just have to copy and paste into our code and have it in two places. Ultimately, it's best not to have your code in more than one place. It's best to make a function, but for this I think we'll just go ahead and do some copying and pasting. So we're going to go ahead and call respawn. We're going to make sure that we take away a life. And then we're going to update our lives. Okay, so sorry for all the scrolling around there, as we're just kind of reviewing back what we've already done before. So let's take away a life. So lives minus minus. Okay, and then we will want to check to see if we're alive or not, or if we have any lives left. So let's just take and copy this out of here. In fact, yeah, let's just copy all this for now. So this is our check to see if we're dead or not. Again, ultimately we should move this into its own function. I'm not going to worry about that today. So lives minus minus, and we'll check to see if we're out of lives. We'll go ahead and turn on our game over panel. And if we still have lives, then we'll go ahead and respawn. Now the other thing we need to do is we need to update the number of lives that we have displayed on the screen. So we're doing that right here in our lives.lives text. So let's go ahead and copy that line as well so that we can paste it in here. So either way, whether we have lives left or not, let's just paste that in and update our lives on the screen. Okay, so now if we fall off the screen and we hit our death plane, we'll lose a life. If we're out of lives, we will do the game over things. And if not, we'll call respawn, which will cause our player to show back up at his last checkpoint and be good to go. So let's save this. We're going to go out into Unity. Now we just need to add that tag to our death plane. So let's go to our death plane here. Let's add a tag. Let's add that in. We're going to call this our death plane, just like we spelled it in our script. Then we'll go back to our death plane game object and we will choose that from the list. There we go. So now we're marked as the death plane. So let's go ahead and give this a test. Let's just fall off the edge of the platform here and hit the death plane and see if it works according to plan. Alright, here we go. We've got 3 lives. I fall off. I hit the death plane. I've got 2 lives, and you saw that my player popped back up here at his checkpoint here. Okay? So there we go. We've got the death plane working. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we totally run out of lives. So here we go. We just keep falling off. And if we do, then here we go. We've got play again or quit. If we hit play again, we're all set back to where we need to be. Okay, so death plane is working. So now let's talk about reloading or loading new levels. Now there are, again, several ways you can do this, as is with most things in game development and coding. We can do it several different ways. Because we're using tile sets and building our levels out of tiles like this, the best thing to do would be to set up each level in its own scene. So you're going to want to create a new scene and then add in a tile set and your grid and go ahead and rebuild that level in whatever configuration that you want. I'm just going to actually copy this current scene and use it again so that I don't have to rebuild a whole nother level here in front of you. That'll save us some time. Matter of fact, I've already done that. What I did was in my scene here, my game scene, I went to File, Save Scene As, and that allows you to make a copy basically of the scene that you're in. You can give it a different name and you'll end up with both of them. So in my scenes folder here, I've got game and I've got level 2. Level 2 is an exact copy of level 1, and then I'm going to move a few things around. Okay, so that's how you get a new scene. Now when you load between scenes, you need to have certain objects like our player and our camera and all the things we have set up. We don't want to recreate that. We actually just want to reuse it. So the best way to do that is just make sure that when you load a new scene, you don't destroy those objects that have the scripts and things on it that you want to use. So what we're going to make is a script here that we can just attach to our objects that we don't want to have destroyed. So I've made a new C# script here called Don't Destroy. We'll open that up in MonoDevelop, and it's really simple. All it's going to do is in its awake function. So if we haven't talked about the awake function before, the awake function runs before the start function does. So this is the very first function that will run on an object when it is created. So when our object is first created in the awake function, we're going to use this command right here. It's DontDestroyOnLoad, and then I'm just going to feed it the game object that's attached to the script. Alright, so any game object that we put this on now will survive between levels. It won't be destroyed when we load a new level. And that's the good news for us. So out in our game, what are the objects that we want not to be destroyed? Well, for one, we don't want the player to be destroyed. So I've gone ahead and added that script right here, just dragged and dropped it on here to my player. So now when the level loads, my player will survive between levels. The other thing we want is we want our canvas with all of our UI in it to go from level to level, because that's not going to change. So I added that onto my canvas. We also put this onto our main camera, because the main camera has the Cinemachine set up, so we want that to survive, so the camera settings are all still the same. So we're reusing all that. Everything else, the enemy, we're going to make new enemies there. We also added it to our background image, because I'm just going to keep using the same background image. If you want to use a different background image on different levels, then just make one in that level, but I wanted mine to stay. Alright, I don't think we added it to anything else in here. So I think that is it. So those objects will survive. So the key thing you have to remember now is that when you make your new level, do not drop a player or a camera or a canvas into it. Any of those things that you are keeping from level to level, don't put a new one in your new level, or you're going to have some conflicts and some issues. So when I went to my level 2, let me show you that. I'm going to go here, I'm going to load my level 2. So you notice on level 2, there is no camera, there is no player, there is no background image, there is no canvas. See, all the things are not there. All I have is my enemies, all my objects, everything's set up in here. Okay? That's all that's there. So when I load this, all the other things are going to move over from my first level into my second level. And then you can have as many levels as you want to as you go through, and just keep using the same thing. The other good thing about not destroying your player is you don't have to reset your lives. You can keep your lives between levels, your current health, all that stays the same, and you don't have to store it and reload it. Okay, so how do we set this up? If we haven't already, we need to make sure that each level has a start point. So start point is just an empty game object that's got a tag on it. So I've got an empty game object called start point, and in level 2 here, I put it over here at the top, just so we can, since I'm reusing the levels, level 1 start point's down here, and the end point will be up top, and then when we reload, we'll make them start up here and go back down through the same level. That way we can see that it's actually working correctly. So we need a start point and an exit point. The exit point as well is just an empty game object with a trigger collider on it, tagged as exit point. So we'll have an exit point object with a trigger collider that we can walk into that's tagged as exit point. We have a start point that's tagged as start point, and that does not need a collider because we're not going to collide with it. We're just going to use that to position our player in the scene when the level loads. So I'm going back to my first scene here, so we have all of our pieces there. So I added an exit point here just so that I don't have to walk through the whole level and waste time, but I can position that up here at the top at the end of my level, and that would trigger the level loading of the next level. And then we've got the start point here, and that's just right here. Again, the start point does not need a collider, it's just a position holder. So then our player needs to check to see if he is at the start point when the level first starts, and if not, we're going to move him to that point. That way we can position him in different places on different levels. So in our script, on our player script here, what I'm going to do is in our variables, we need to have a start position variable here. Okay? So this is going to be a variable that the player has, public start position variable. And we're not going to assign that to anything because when the game starts, we're not even going to do it here because remember, when we switch from level to level, the player is not being recreated. So he's only going to run his start function on the very first level when he first loads into the game. So we need to do this in our update function. So in the update function, I've added a piece right here. This is the new piece that you want to add. It's another conditional statement. It's asking if that start position is equal to null. That means it's not assigned. If it's not assigned, then we're going to go out and use a game object, that find game object with tag start position, and we're getting the transform from that because this start position is a transform variable. So that will go out and find the start position, the thing with that tag, and it will store it in my start position variable. Then we'll move our player to that start position. Alright? the first frame that happens, start position now has something assigned to it. It will be no longer null. When we load into a new level, that start position on the old level will be gone, and start position will no longer have a connection to it. So it'll go back to being null, and then right that first frame of the new level, our player will be moved to the start position wherever we put it. So that's how start position works and how you set that up. The other thing we're checking for then in our onTriggerEnter2D function, so let's go down here, is we're also going to be looking for our exit point, because the exit point has a trigger collider on it. Once we reach it, we want to load into our next level. So here I've added another check for a compare tag for the exit point object. When we hit it, we're going to do the command that loads a new scene. So this is the command. It's scene manager.load scene, and then you give it the string name of your level. So whatever you called your level when you saved it, that's the name you want to use. So for scene manager to work, for you to even get this, you need to do a using tag at the top. So if we go back up to the top here, you're going to see that I have added this line right here, using Unity Engine.scene management. That gets me access to all the loading and unloading and such. And we may have already had that, so we could reload our current scene on restart. But if not, double check and see if you have that Unity Engine scene management. Alright, then we go down to our compare tag here, exit point. So then we say scene manager load scene, and we're loading to level 2. Now, if you want to have more than 2 levels, you could certainly store a list of, so an array of strings that contains the names of all your levels, and then you can keep track of which level you're on and just load in the next string. The other thing you can do is you can actually use a load scene using the index number of your scenes. Each scene has an index number, and they start at 0 and go up. So if you order it correctly in your levels and build, then you can just bump to the next one. That would work probably even easier than keeping track of all the names. So there's a couple ways to do that if you want to have more than 2 levels. I just have one. I'm just showing you an example, so I'm not going to go into that part in this video. So basically, when we hit the exit point, we're going to load level 2. So let's go back out into Unity and let's just see how this all works. So I've got my start point here, and my start point is tagged as start point. I've got an exit point here that's tagged as exit point with the trigger collider. When I hit play, so you notice right now my player is not standing at the start point. He's standing kind of right here in the middle. The start point's over here. So when I hit play, he will move himself over here to the start point. So let's just see what happens here. And there you see, he was moved to the start point when the game started. Now, if I walk over here and hit the exit point, you're going to see that my level loads, and I'm going to end up in level 2's start point. Level 2 start point is up here, and it will be a whole new scene that loads. Okay, so let's just walk. Let's walk into the exit point, and there we go. I was teleported over here, and I'm actually in a different level now. See, it says right here I'm in level 2. So here's all the objects in level 2. You also see in your hierarchy, you'll get a do not destroy on load. And this lists all the things that were not destroyed in load. So you can see here, these are all the things that have that don't destroy script on them. I may have missed a few when I was going through, but it's the main camera. It was my image. It was my player. It was my virtual camera from Cinemachine, my canvas, and the canvas event system. I kept all of those between levels. So those are the things you want to make sure you put your don't destroy on load script onto. But now I'm here in this new level, and everything still works. I can jump, I can attack, I can take damage. The only thing I don't have in this level 2 is I didn't add a death plane to it. But there we go. We get down to here. And then to end the game, see right now it's just going to reload me back to level 2. But basically, you can check to see if there are any more levels to load. And if this is the very last level, then you can just go to your Game Over 1 screen or whatever your end of your game screen would be. Just to give you an idea of how to accomplish that, in your script here, whenever you hit the exit point, before you load the level, you would do a check. So in this case, since I only have 2 levels, I could just say, we could say if scene manager dot get active scene. Okay, this is going to get the currently active scene, and then we could say dot name equals level 2. Then we would do our game over panel. So then we would call game over. We don't really have a game over function yet, so you would probably want to move some of this into a game over. But we could just open our game over panel. So let's just type that in here for now, just so we can see if we can see something working. Let's set active it to true. There'd be a few more things you'd have to clean up here, but I'm going to leave some of this in your hands to complete your game. So we'll just set that to true. Else, if we're not at level 2, then we'll go ahead and load level 2. Okay, so let's actually give that a little try. Let's see if this idea actually works out. And that gives you an idea of one way that you could end your level. Of course, you're going to want to restructure this to meet your particular game's needs. So I go to my exit point. I should go to level 2. Boop, there I am. And now if I jump all the way down here, and I hit my exit point, there's my game over panel. Of course, I haven't froze my player up, so you'd want to do all those types of things as well. And you could have a different screen that loads as well. I mean, it could be congratulations, you have made it through my game, whatever it is. Okay, so I know I'm a little ambiguous in a few points here, but I think at this point you're ready to take some of this on a little more on your own. And this gets you the basics of adding that death plane at the bottom, and then also one way, and a pretty good way in a game like this, to actually handle the loading of levels and having multi-level game here, so you can continue to build the awesome story that you are building in your own version of your platform game. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed the series. I've enjoyed making this series on a platform game. Please continue to leave questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can for you. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're finding these videos useful to your ideas and your creations of your games. Have a great day.